Hi all, this is Jan of the Jan Files. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm also on Substack. The subscription thing is just a nuts. I don't know why I'm not getting new subscribers. I've lost a couple of old ones. I really would appreciate your help and support, especially my Blue Sky followers, of 15,000 of you. Really would help me to get the support so I can continue doing this. So I'm going to start today, and we're going to talk about the South African Mafia. And I didn't coin that term. I think it was maybe Forbes, not sure. Anyway, the people I'm talking about are Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and David Sachs. Now, they have many things in common, but the first thing they have in common is that they all spent time, either were born, in terms of Elon Musk and David Sachs, were both born in South Africa. Peter Thiel was born in Germany and then moved to South Africa. And so they share that background. They share the background of living in, even though David Sachs was very young when he left, he was only 5. They lived in apartheid South Africa. And clearly, certainly in Thiel's case, he was very much took things away from that in terms of how he conducts himself and what he believes now. He also was moved to a town, just so you know, his father moved them to a town, and it was called, you can't make this up, Swakopmund. And that's now Namibia. It was Western South Africa. And that's where his father brought the family, where he was an engineer. He was an engineer, chemical engineer. And he moved them from Germany to here, to this town, where he managed a mine. And it was called the Rossing uranium mine. It's the world's largest open pit uranium mine, operating in defiance of international law and part of South Africa's secret nuclear weapons program. So, of course, this was a horrendous sight for Black workers. They were exposed to the irradiation without being told that they were building a uranium mine. They had no idea. White managers worked from behind glass, not Black. So that's Thiel's daddy. Like, he worked there. But this town, this is the part that I was saying that you can't make this shit up. This town was documented as probably being the last place on earth where people still openly greeted each other with Heil Hitler and celebrated Hitler's birthday. And Thiel attended a German language school there, which, of course, there were only whites. There were no Blacks, there were no Indians, etc. And so that's Peter Thiel's background. His family comes obviously from Germany. He was born in Germany. And you can extrapolate for whatever you want from the fact that his father moved them to this town where it was common to say Heil Hitler. I mean, I don't know anybody. You could work in some place and not have to live there. But anyway, that's what he chose. And that's where Peter Thiel was until I think about the age of 10. And Elon Musk lived there in South Africa. He was very wealthy. His father was very wealthy. Excuse me, and only left when he was going to have to go into military service for South Africa. That is my understanding of what I have done the research. And David Sachs left South Africa after the age of 5, where he moved with his family to Memphis, Tennessee, where they lived in a South African community. So those are the facts, okay? And what you should also know, all of these men, obviously Elon Musk is probably the wealthiest person in the world. Peter Thiel is up there. And David Sachs is also very wealthy, not on the scale of an Elon Musk. He's got I'm sure it's more than 300 million. I'm not sure what Peter Thiel's net worth is, nor do I actually care. Peter Thiel came and was one of the founders of PayPal. he brought David Sachs in, whom he met at Stanford, to be the chief operating officer. Eventually, Elon Musk actually got involved in PayPal, and he had a company called X.com. Yes, that was the name. And eventually that became part of PayPal. PayPal was bought for 1.2, I'm not sure, 1.2, 1.7, I think it was $1.2 billion by eBay. So anyway, that's a little bit of their business story. Let's go back a little bit, because let's find out how these guys met. Well, actually, Elon Musk met Peter Thiel, as far as we know, during the whole PayPal transaction, but not David Sachs and Peter Thiel. They went to Stanford together. They wrote a book together. They wrote a book together called The Diversity Myth in 1995. I'm going to share some quotes with you about this, but I also want you to know that these ties also, in terms of Thiel and Musk, were both connected to Epstein. You know, this world, as I explained before, when I talked about all those secretive groups, and we now know, obviously, in the past couple of weeks, it's come out that Thiel created a secret group called Dialogue. You know, all these secret groups where nobody records anything anybody says, they all hang out together, you know, whatever, and you're not supposed to let anybody know. And this is not just for Republicans, folks. This is Republicans and some Democrats. So this is all about those private meetings that nobody knows anything about, where they all think that they're the smartest in the fucking room, and they decide how the rest of us are going to live. And that's what takes place. So let's go back. David Sachs and Peter Thiel went to Stanford together. They wrote a book. They started the Stanford Review, and they wrote a book called The Diversity Myth. And not only are these guys racist, they're misogynistic assholes. So I'm going to read some quotes here, because I don't want to try to paraphrase any of this. Since a multicultural rape charge may indicate nothing more than belated regret, a woman might realize that she had been raped the next day or even many days later. Under these circumstances, it is unclear who should be held responsible. If the alcohol made both of them do it, then why should the woman's consent be obviated any more than the man's? Why is all the blame placed on the man? This is another quote. This one's about racism, and it was on camera for the Heritage Foundation. This is Peter Thiel. There is no problem with racism. There is no problem with sexism. Sachs cited the bell curve. Now, if you guys don't know, the bell curve is a racist scientific take on the intellect of Black people. And it is disgusting. It is gross. No real scientist pays any attention to it. But of course, David Sachs and Peter Thiel did in their book, The Diversity Myth. And Sachs cited in Stanford's magazine, the basic problem is that a racist past cannot be undone through more racism. See, there were big, no affirmative action. Racism isn't really a problem anymore, and it doesn't need to be addressed. It would be healthier, and this was in 2023. Thiel accepted the Edmund Burke Award, and this is what he said about DEI. It would be healthier that whenever someone mentions DEI, you just think CCP. CCP stands for the Chinese Communist Party. And Musk says, you know, we all know Musk is racist as fuck, right? So he is constantly racist on Twitter. DEI is just another word for racism. Shame on anyone who uses it. Musk has also said more anti-white and anti-other race laws than there were anti-Black laws under apartheid. This is what he's talking about South Africa. So let me say that again. More anti-white and anti-other race laws than there were anti-black laws under apartheid. That would, never mind. So let me just, like I said, I have notes here, so I want to make sure I get. So Teal has also published in an essay that he no longer believes freedom and democracy are compatible. He wrote that extending the vote to women, these are his words, that extending the vote to women rendered capitalistic democracy into an oxymoron. His biographer described him as hostile to the idea of democracy. And when Teal looked back on the book that he and Sachs wrote in 1995, which was anti-diversity, of course, obviously it was called the diversity myth. In other words, there's no need for diversity. You know, having white people have everything is just perfectly fine with all of them. Okay, let's be really clear. They kind of backed off the rape claim at one point, you know, that first quote I gave you. But in 2023, said that looking back at the diversity myth, quote, almost every point we made was right, including using the bell curve as something they were going to reference. Again, the bell curve is racist as fuck. Now, so Peter Thiel is in the Epstein files 2,200 times. He had no apology for hanging out with Epstein, and still doesn't, after he was convicted of being a sexual predator. He didn't, and Epstein actually asked him if his bad press gave him pause. And Thiel responded with, if I was intimidated by bad press, I would not have gotten anywhere in life. So I guess he thinks that raping young girls is bad press. This is documented from an email in the Epstein files. And Epstein introduced Peter Thiel to Ehud Barak. Now, Peter Thiel didn't just wasn't just the founder of PayPal. Palantir is his. Palantir, that is basically, I'd like to use the word invaded our government, has multiple billions of dollars in contracts. You know who was put in charge by Trump of overseeing all of that? His buddy, David Sachs. Thiel eventually also became friendly with the Israeli government, is also now providing them with what they need to prosecute wars. You can't make this shit up, folks. I mean, he's heavily involved with Israel, and he said Palantir signed a strategic partnership with the Israeli Ministry of Defense for AI tools described as supporting, in the company's own words, war-related missions. Palantir's CEO has said his bias is to defer to Israel. The relationship that Epstein started led Peter Thiel into this $1 billion of deals with Israel. Now, Elon Musk, we all know Elon Musk. It almost feels like, what's the point? But he, at one point, said that he had never, been to his island, really had nothing. Let me just quote what he said exactly. He said, Epstein tried to get me to go to the island and I refused. That's not what the emails say, folks. The files show that on November 25th of 2012, what day night will be the wildest party on your island? On Christmas Day, Musk emails Epstein. Do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year. And so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I am looking for. This is not the man who was looking to just kind of relax. He was out looking for the wildest party. So his bullshit that, he didn't really want anything to do with Epstein is just that bullshit. All three of them. David Sachs, there's no real relationship that we know of to Epstein, but he did attack another person who was in the Epstein files, Reid Hoffman. And Hoffman is a Democrat. Like I said, there are Democrats and Republicans in this. But he went after Reid Hoffman and said zilch about Peter Thiel's relationship to Epstein, which was far more complicated and far more documented than even Reid Hoffman. So, he doesn't say anything about Peter Thiel and attacks somebody else. Typical. And remember, David Sachs was working for Trump. He was his AI crypto guy until March of 2026. And, this all circles around, folks. This is just like the same crap I told you about with all those secret groups. These are the guys. These guys from South Africa are pulling strings, have puppeteers in our government, including Trump. There's no question that Trump, they're pulling his strings. Peter Thiel gave, I think it was $12 or $15 million to J.D. Vance for his, being out there and his Senate campaign that he won. Okay, he was backed by Peter Thiel. And the other thing I want you to know, this is a quick aside, Palantir was co-founded by Thiel in 2003 with CIA Venture Capital. It now holds billions in U.S. government contracts. ICE, the Department of Defense, CIA. This is where Peter Thiel is all through like this, okay? And there is, no doubt that these guys, all of them are still alive, are pulling the strings. Elon Musk obviously was Doge, which was a disaster. They did nothing that they were supposed to do other than harm us and harm the world with the cutting back on USAID. That has killed millions of people. And so, wait a minute, let me back that up. Is it million? I'm not sure if it's millions or hundreds of thousands. So, I'm not sure, and I'm not going to look it up right now. So anyway, people have died because of his decisions and what he pushed for in Doge. Peter Thiel has actually moved his family to Argentina, which is fascinating, right? Why move your kids to Argentina? And what's really interesting is Peter Thiel is gay. And I say it's only that because obviously the Trump administration and all of those, the Heritage Foundation and all that, want nothing to do with gay people. They tolerate gay people, right? It's sort of like, people talking about stopping interracial marriages, and yet they support Clarence Thomas. It's that kind of a thing, It doesn't make any motherfucking sense. So, again, we have men who then come here from South Africa, Clearly, that apartheid on some levels, in my opinion, runs through their blood, and they bring it here. Now, let's also just quickly talk about all the South Africans that are benefiting from our very small refugee program. Trump has let them in, saying that there's genocide of South. No, no way. There is no genocide in South Africa of white Afrikaners. It doesn't exist. And let me just quickly give you some, am I going to be able to give you some quick, sometimes this note thing makes me nuts. But anyway, they don't, okay, here it is. White South Afrikaners own 75% of the land, while comprising 7% of the population. They earn nearly 3 times the average wage of Black workers. A farm murders track between 2020 and 2024, 101 victims were Black workers. 53 were farmers, white. South Africa's own white-led opposition party called Trump's characterization ridiculous. And the UN has not going to designate this as genocide. There is no such thing. So, but I need you to really understand that this, and I know you guys get it. I understand, you know that the elite, the corporate elite are pulling all the strings, but the insidiousness of it, the actual factual, sorry, let me back up. The insidiousness of it and the facts that back that up are important to know and important to share. This is where, again, I'm going to keep saying we need to spread the word. We need to have facts at our fingertips. I sometimes feel at that. I try to do my best, and then I'll be in the middle of one of these things, and I go, oh, shit, I didn't look that up. Whatever. It's me, myself, and I. So this is what you get. But folks, there is no question that white supremacy is feeding this entire debacle. And they also advocate for women not voting. So take that for what it's worth. And I've seen a lot more about that recently, with women actually saying, well, if it was going to mean that we would be in a conservative society, then I wouldn't mind giving up my vote. Well, I mind giving up my vote, bitch. So it ain't going to happen. Sorry. It's just one of those days where I'm going to swear probably more than I should, but whatever. So anyway, that's it. That's what I've got to say about the South African mafia, whatever you want to call them. Take care till the next time.